Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Ranke and Nolan Beilstein. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Nolan's close. He's really close, like just toeing near 20, Jeff.
A couple more decades and I'm right there.
Every week we cover the biggest stories in manufacturing, about the top three, and the implications they have on the industry moving forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, Nolan, or David at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can get a notification when we go live every Thursday. Nolan, thank you for joining us this week. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be back. I haven't done this since last year.
Oh, there it is.
It's very funny.
Gotta get one in, like at least one per episode until March, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, it was like in short notice too, so really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. Happy to join.
Very good. Well, Jeff, how you doing this week?
Outstanding, David.
Outstanding. Jeff has just been on a heater lately. He's just been constantly good.
Why not be happy?
I mean, I understand that, like, in the grand scheme. And Anna, hope everyone's feeling better soon, and we see you next week. All right. This week's episode is brought to you by QAD Redzone. For QAD Redzone, the overarching goal for customers is to help them unlock the power of their frontline teams and, quote, win more shifts. Anna recently caught up with not only Redzone, but some of its key customers at the EATS trade show and conference, which was held in Chicago, Illinois. On display were demos showcasing the company's connected workforce tools, enabling members of production, maintenance, and quality teams to be connected, collaborating, and working toward a common goal. So, watch When Culture and Data Converge, Manufacturers Find New Potential, a short video about how QAD Redzone is empowering teams and making a big impact on these businesses. All right. Our first story this week, the Worston Show at CES 2026. After flirting with obsolescence, CES 2026 appears to have returned to form. And despite stories about Boston Dynamics working with Google DeepMind to give humanoid robots AI brains, Siemens working with NVIDIA on AI-driven manufacturing, Hyundai assembling cars with humanoids, smart sensor-enabled Legos, and robots in, on, and everywhere around your body, our most popular coverage was the Worston Show at CES 2026. Because why celebrate great advancements in technology when you can focus on the dumpster fires? The awards are voted on by a group of consumer and privacy advocates who judged the contest, one of which said, quote, "We definitely intend some shame. And while I wasn't one of them, I certainly agree with their findings." Hey, can you truly appreciate the hits if you don't dunk on the misses? What was odd was that the Worston Show this year is kind of the same or has been in line with what has been Worston Show for several years, just in different form factors. So, what were the most, quote, invasive, wasteful, and fragile products? Number 5, Amazon's Ring doorbell won Worston Show for privacy concerns like facial recognition and deployable mobile surveillance towers. There's also a whole bit in there about how they can have programmers develop in their app, and just gets worse from there. Number 4 was a Chinese company that made Lepro, a female avatar on a curved screen marketed as, quote, your always on 3D soulmate. Ooh. It's designed for remote workers looking for private and empathetic interactions. Jeff, what are they doing?
What?
Exactly. Number 3 was the Lollipop Star, a candy that plays music while you eat it. It uses bone induction technology to enable people to hear songs through the lollipop as they bite it, which is not how you eat a lollipop. using their back teeth. Basically, the stick is a disposable electronic device that you put in your mouth over and over. Maroc's, it kind of looks like, you'll see it. Maroc's internet-connected treadmill has an industry-first AI coach that will not only talk to you, but it will proactively adjust the speed and incline based on heart rate changes, or if you're just not digging in enough. You got to get it, Jeff. You got to get after it. Number one was Samsung's, quote, bespoke AI family hub refrigerator, which won overall worst in show. Samsung asked attendees to tell the fridge to open or close doors, but there were a few bugs in the system and it didn't always know what you were saying. Samsung chalked up the problems to a noisy trade show floor. The fridge also uses computer vision to track when food items are running low, so then it can serve you ads as to how, where, and why to buy replacements. Samsung told the AP the fridge is, quote, designed to simplify decisions around the home, making life more convenient and enjoyable. Jeff, is any of it making life more convenient and enjoyable?
Look, all this stuff is subjective. I understand we're having some fun here talking about the worst of show, and you can pick these out as maybe some misses, but I had to, the one thing that caught my mind in going through this article was this Elizabeth Chamberlain. She's one of the people on this group. Mm-hmm. She must have gone to the David Manty School of Waffling because her full quote was, "We definitely intend some shame here." She is the iFixit Director of Sustainability. But then she goes, "Our goal isn't to really shame any particular manufacturer as such. We're hoping that they'll make changes as a result of it." So what are you really trying to do here, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Shame people? Or not shame people, just make it better?
Mild shaming. It's like a 6 shame.
I just thought that was funny that she contradicted herself basically within the space of 3 sentences there.
I understand, can't throw stones, but I mean, there are things, these are common themes that we see. AI and everything, making fridges too smart. I mean, the first thing we talked about with smart electronics was the smart fridge and how it's unnecessary, and they just seem to progressively make it more unnecessary.
Potentially, but in the spirit of the thing that leads to the thing, there is a lot of stuff that we can take away here. I mean, do I need a refrigerator that tells me I'm low on ketchup? No. But if you take this technology and you apply it to a hospital setting or another healthcare setting to be able to verbalize and to have other reminders in place when you're getting low on a certain medication or you need to reorder and restock, just to have those constant reminders and AI helping you to be better and having things available for patients, I think there's benefit there. Do I want Maroc's, what was the other one here? The Lepro, Amy Soulmate, 3D Soulmate.
Yeah.
Do I see a market need for that right now for the individual remote worker? No. Do I want this? No. However, you could look at situations with assisted living situations, elder care, things like that, where having like maybe a virtual reminder type technology or someone talking to somebody to keep them engaged could be helpful.
Yeah.
So in these current settings, is a lot of the stuff they're talking about here necessary, needed, maybe a big swing and a miss? Sure.
Yeah.
But I think when we look at this from a product development perspective, I don't really want to shame anybody.
Yeah.
I want these ideas to come out there. The market can say yes or no.
Yeah.
And again, we're having some fun here. We want these folks to get better. I understand why it's called Worst in Show. But again, let's take a step back and appreciate the fact that even if we don't see it now, there is benefit to just putting some of this stuff out there into the ether and letting the market decide. So that's where I think there's benefit. And I don't think it's the case. I don't think anybody gets that sensitive about it. But you would hate to have somebody influence so negatively where they're not at least throwing something against the wall, I guess.
No, and I agree. Like, that was the one thing, that was the biggest thing that turned my head the first time we went to the Consumer Electronics Show, I don't know, 20 years ago, was that it was you always saw the greatest stuff. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to see advancements in cars. I'm going to see advancements in consumer electronics. And then you get there and you realize like it's 80% tchotchke junk. And you're just like, I mean, it is. I mean, that's the reality because like, hey, I mean, they're still selling cheap electronics in gas stations and they will until the end of time. So, I mean, and don't get me wrong, like, you're right. If you can, not just when things are gone, I mean, when you're talking about serving an older community, then a smart fridge that maybe I could tether to. So I know that my grandma's fridge is empty. Or, if there are some concerns about like dementia or slipping, what is the one thing that you hear a lot is that the elderly make themselves sick because they're eating food that they don't know is bad. There are things there that could work, but it's also like sometimes you're just like, but that's like an alert to your phone, not, but it'll serve you an ad as to where you could buy it, where you're like, okay, see what you did. You had a really good thing and then you pushed it a little too far, maybe to get a little more attention. Now, I mean, Nolan, was the electronic lollipop stick the surest sign of the apocalypse for you, or was it something different?
No, it wasn't the lollipop. I considered the AI soulmate that's straight out of Her. The movie Her. But I looked more towards that treadmill that's powered by the AI chatbot, and maybe our local security breach host can appreciate the part where their fine print says, "We cannot guarantee the security of your personal information."
Yeah. That's, I mean,
that's kind of like you basically might as well say, don't use this.
Yeah. Well, another part of CES, it would be interesting to have you go there with a cybersecurity lens nowadays and just be like, these are all vulnerabilities. How often do we talk about toys that are connected and people are just like, man, anyone has access to that data. Well, Nolan, the other thing, it gets quiet in Jeff's office, so maybe this, maybe not a soulmate, but at least another voice in the room.
I like how why does it have to be a female avatar?
Come on.
We know who's buying.
We know why, because while it also spurred talking points about how so many people are advocates against like return to office initiatives. And it's just like, we shouldn't have to go, but I need to expense my AI avatar data usage because I need someone to talk to. Yeah. It's just, it was the same for me, Nolan, because when I was just like, now, wait a minute. Also, why does it need to be like a holographic display? Can't it just be a chatbot? Like,
it could just be like a smiley face with a mouth that moves. Why does it need curves and features?
It's got to have curves, Nolan.
I suppose.
And hey, at least it's still somewhat two-dimensional. We're
on a screen. That's
getting so much closer to her. Like, I don't know. Bosch also won a couple of these awards, but there were some discrepancies as to why, so I kind of kept them off of the list because it was like, smart coffee makers and stuff like that. But I don't know. When you look at consumer electronics, Nolan, a lot of time you see things that you're like, hey, neat, but I don't need that.
Yeah, I didn't see these so much as individual flops, but more trends and maybe trends we should be mindful of, like the one that doesn't guarantee your secure information, or maybe the overcomplicating a simple thing like a fridge for the sake of overcomplicating it. Yeah. Like it keeps things cold.
Yeah.
That's all it needs to do. It doesn't need to do anything else.
Is that something we could that could be regulated, Jeff? That like if you are going to have connectivity, you need to have X level of security?
It's coming, and it's difficult because when you get into regulatory and compliance things with cybersecurity, everybody has a different take. Everybody has a different opinion. There's a lot of folks who are saying, leave me alone, I'll do it myself. And then there's others who are saying, you're never going to do it yourself. We need to get the government involved. So, and then the government's caught somewhat in the middle. So it's a tough rope tough path to kind of go down right now. Do we need it? Yeah, we do. We do need some federal compliance statutes if we're starting to connect everything like refrigerators and other appliances to the internet.
Well, and I just think of, I hate that we have them, but we still have Alexa in the home, right? And how many times I ask a question, no idea what I'm asking, whether it's to play a song, play a band, ask a question about a game that's happening, asking about whether or not I can use bananas instead of butter in this recipe. And then Alexa just gives you something, just doesn't understand. And we're talking about one of the biggest companies in the world's product. So I don't know. I just think when we're talking about making things smarter, like, I don't know, there's still a really long way to go.
No, I'd agree. And a lot of it also comes down to human common sense and being too tech reliant.
Yeah.
You still got to read the fine print, understand what you're working with here.
Well, and I do. You guys both know I have a real appreciation for the absurd, and this just serves up so much of it. So much of it. Anyway, it's going to be a weird, lonely place in the future. Maybe it is going to be exactly like Ready Player One called it, but who knows?
When we're at Wall-E and our limbs are that long.
I mean,
we don't do anything.
Definitely somewhere in between. I mean, we're going to need like a hover pad because our bones can't support our bodies.
We'll be fine, guys. Going down that dystopian path.
Just gonna write that down.
It'll be fine.
Will be
It
fine.
always is.
Jeff Frankie, 2026.
Going down.
I mean, maybe you guys won't be, but I feel pretty good about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know I'm fine. It's just going to be the future generations. We're just like, we're the like, Jedi ghosts looking down. Like, I'll be like, see, Jeff, they're floating around. It wasn't like maybe they'll be still rolled, The only thing they got wrong was the hover portion. They were never able to like get the hover technology correct. We'll see.
All right, David.
Anyway, back to story 2. Stellantis kills full plug-in hybrid line. Stellantis appears poised to unplug its plug-in hybrid EV line. Last week, the automaker announced plans to kill all of its plug-in hybrids in America, including the Jeep Wrangler 4xe, the top-selling plug-in in the country. But why? Stellantis told The Drive that the change is the result of shifting consumer demand. The automaker will phase out its plug-in program with model year 2026, slowly pushing the Jeep Cherokee 4xe and Chrysler Pacifica PHEV into the same abyss as the Wrangler. Stellantis says it will remain focused on electrification, like non-plug-in hybrids and range-extended electrics, which are still in development. And if this triggers you to rush out looking for one of these last remaining Jeep Wrangler 4xes, they're already under a stop sale due to an ongoing recall, so just put a pin in it. Now, Nolan, this seems to me like less pulling the plug and more cutting the cord. Like plug-in hybrids are, like it or not, obsolete.
Cutting the cord, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah, you see what it is?
On fire today,
Possibly.
David.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw it as not like a mode of abandoning electrification, but more like a EV evolution or an EV-olution.
Oh,
if you will.
Yep.
You're welcome, Jeff. Did that for you.
Yeah.
Because it mentions Ford killing its F-150 Lightning and then says like it's going to be reborn with extended range. And Stellantis also mentioned extended range. So, I mean, I know they cited regulatory requirements as well, but I think it just proves that like they're still trying to figure out a tough puzzle for consumer preferences, infrastructure limitations, policy changes. And it's like EVs aren't a one-size-fits-all market yet. So it still has to be fine-tuned.
No, and it was... I guess when I look at how I was going to market looking at hybrids or EVs, I never even really looked at plug-in hybrids, mostly because I wasn't very aware of them and there weren't that many options out there. But I just feel like it's not, there's not a market demand for it. And so they're just saying like, no one's buying them, instead of any other reasons that they could be given right now. They're just like, yeah, we didn't sell them. And the ones we did sell, they got some problems. So we're done.
Just move on. Try the next thing.
Yeah. So, okay, Jeff, I'm not on fire, but I might be charged up. Is the plug-in hybrid to you, Jeff?
Yeah.
Is it, when we look at it in the grand scheme of automotive history, is the plug-in hybrid going to be like the Betamax? Like what might have been a better, more technologically advanced option that just the market wasn't ready for?
You look at it that way. Maybe. I think Nolan actually had a very good point there when he talked about there's just not one size fits all for electric vehicles. And we're not used to that. It's a different dynamic because with a gas-powered vehicle, you're looking at a pretty similar drivetrain regardless of the vehicle. Yeah, you want a car, you want a truck, you want a van, whatever. But everything else, the operating dynamics were very similar. That's a big cultural shift. That's a big paradigm to get past. And I think we're working through a couple of different things right now when you look at this. First of all, when you look at the 4XES, am I saying that right?
No, the 4xe.
4xe.
Yeah.
The Wrangler there, I mean, yes, it was the top-selling plug-in, but it also sold at about 1/5 the rate of a regular Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
So of a gas-powered Jeep Wrangler. So the scale is not there. And when we talk about EVs being less expensive to manufacture, but they're more expensive to actually source and get all the materials for. So the margins are very different. When you look at what the difference is between an XE and a Wrangler traditional, it's about 10 grand, 10 to 15. And when you lose that tax credit, I think this made a very easy decision for Jeep or Stellantis to axe this and start going with more traditional vehicles. At the end of the day, as much as we don't like to admit it, car companies like to make money.
Yeah.
So they're going to make what people are buying.
Yeah.
And they were not buying this at the same level. And I think this puts electric vehicles at a very interesting crossroads. I don't know exactly how this is going to play out in the next couple of years because the social conversation has changed so dramatically.
Yeah.
From all the talks about, well, we need to have this many vehicles at this level with the corporate average fuel economy being here by 2030 to all of that basically going away and basically telling car makers, make cars people are going to buy. Do what you want to do without the federal government or anybody else being involved in sort of pushing the EV movement. Socially, folks are going with, I'm going to stick with what I know and what I'm familiar with, and that's gas-powered cars. So whether the plug-in or the pure electric goes away or evaporates or becomes a lower-tier offering, I don't know where that goes, but it's definitely at a crossroads over the next couple of years, and whether automakers are going to see more opportunity with plug-ins, with straight electrics, or with the extended range electric vehicles, which is really interesting because those are going to be significantly more expensive if people want to get into that. So it's going to take kind of a combination of where we were before, where automakers and the government sort of in sync in pushing these vehicles forward and basically telling the public these are going to be your options. All of that has really been repealed and really kind of rolled back. It's going to be interesting to see where we go in the next 2 years.
But luckily, while that was repealed and rolled back, the tariff situation threw all materials into flux. So like the entire automotive industry, Governor Whitmer was out kind of just throwing a couple of soft warnings out there today, just like, hey, things aren't looking good in automotive. Could be tariffs. Not certain. Just letting everybody know. Could be the economy. Not certain. But, so it looks like maybe the automotive sector could have a couple of headwinds coming. But
so she said this right after President Trump was in Detroit.
I mean, I don't know about the timing, but
interesting.
Yeah. But part of it for me is that these PHEVs as a segment, you either had non-plug-in hybrids, which were easy it was an easy, logical next step for a person like myself, where I wasn't ready for an EV, but I was ready to get closer to it. Whereas for me, Nolan, if you're going to plug in a hybrid, wouldn't you just as soon get an EV that you got to plug in anyways? It feels just like if you're going to move into this auxiliary plug-in unit, you might as well go all in.
Yeah, it might be like an unnecessary stepping stone.
Yeah. I mean, for me, so you get greater range. It comes with a much larger battery. And now I'm very sensitive to that. Like now that the maintenance costs of a hybrid battery are on my radar. But you do get 10 to 20 or 10 to 70 miles range for some, which is actually kind of interesting to me because, I kind of have the hybrid where it's just you can start the car, you can pull it out, and you can kind of go a half a minute before the engine turns on. It just wasn't enough, C. Brooks 2767 says, I saw two of these hybrid Wranglers get stuck in the mud on level ground. They were so heavy that they sank up to the frame rails. Yeah. Guess what pulled them out? A 30-year-old ice Jeep. Boom! He got him. Oh, and Mr. Jack 8849 says, who would have thought when the government stopped giving free money away to electric cars, the market for it would collapse? And then there's a smiling emoji.
I think it's laughing.
Oh, laughing emoji. Yeah. Sorry, but a laughing emoji where it's he's laughing so hard his eyes are squeezed in.
Right.
Got it. It tells you everything. What the market for those cars was about. So I guess there are some people, some strong opinions about this. And then another person just commented. Maybe he calls himself Berserker. He says no one wanted them. They were being forced down our throats by state and federal And I don't think that's necessarily accurate.
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that at all. Like, I do think that there is a market switch, an interest, and a demand for EVs. I mean, did they try to accelerate that? Yes. But
yeah, and I think it's a lifestyle thing, and that goes back to what Nolan was talking about. It's something for everybody. When I'm pulling my boat, I don't want an EV when I'm going up to Eagle River. That's 4 hours on the road. Coming to and from work, 20 minutes, there could be a lot of cost benefits there.
Oh, yeah. So. All right. Well, our most popular story this week, trailer manufacturer to idle 2 plants, cut 270 jobs. Wabash National Corporation said it leads the nation in American-made semi-trailer and tank trailer production. It may lead the nation, but it still plans to idle a pair of facilities in Little Falls, Minnesota, and Goshen, Indiana. 56 jobs will be lost in Minnesota, 214 in Indiana, and these are maintenance and production coordinators, machine operators, assemblers, and welders, among others. The cuts will happen on March 6th and April 3rd. The company plans to eventually cease all manufacturing operations at the facilities. Wabash thinks the costs could reach up to $20 million for the separations. The announcement comes after the company experienced a 17.8% decrease in Q3 sales from the same period a year ago. Still, Wabash says that its total backlog still stands at $829 million, but part of the problem is customers taking a, quote, wait-and-see approach to capital spending. But Jeff, why could these customers be taking a wait-and-see approach to capital spending?
Well, this is sort of a perfect storm here. There's a lot going on with this story beyond, unfortunately, these 270 people losing their jobs. When you look at what we have right now in the freight market, there is an overabundance of vehicles in proportion to the amount of orders or amount of freight that needs to be transported. Okay, we have too many trucks out there right now, so people aren't spending.
Yeah.
Well, why? First of all, let's backtrack a little bit. Why are there more trucks out there? A lot of that goes back to the pandemic when we needed more over-the-road hauling. Companies invested, bought a lot of trailers, bought a lot of new semis. Then things came back to quote unquote normal. All of a sudden, we got more trucks than we do truckloads of product. You also have to factor in things like inflation and tariffs, which are driving up the price of a lot of consumer goods, which means when you look at consumer spending, the numbers aren't that far down, but the quantities are. Yeah. So in other words, we're paying more for less stuff. Again, exacerbating this whole sort of weird imbalance we have when it comes to freight. Wabash has this dynamic to deal with. And then they also had some real quality concerns. They tried rolling out some new products. They've also diversified out of refrigerated carriers. So there's a lot of different things happening with them. And there's a lot of other factors that they couldn't control also impacting their business right now. So when you put all that together, this is what happens, unfortunately. People lose jobs.
Well, and as they've been diversifying, they have made a couple of interesting choices. And I'll get to that in a second, just because they are continuing to evolve, and I do give Wabash a lot of credit in terms of trying new things, right? Like Nolan, so often we hear these stories of these plants closing because it's just a company tied to a product that's, is sunsetting everywhere, like the market has selected against it. But one thing that as I looked into Wabash more and more, they're willing to try and get into different types of markets, different strategies, they're trying to make it work.
Yes. So in the spirit of adaptability, I wanted to pose the question, was this a late reaction by them or an appropriately timed move?
In my opinion, it seemed like appropriately timed. It didn't seem like they were caught off guard by any means. It seems like they're changing their corporate strategy, maintaining some of their latest legacy product lines and offering new services. What did you think?
I wasn't sure. As well, I was going to ask the dodeca
well, I guess
people with multiple decades of expertise.
Well, how about you, Jeff?
See, and I'll be interested to hear what you think about these new products that they're rolling out, or the way that they're trying to diversify their portfolio, because I saw some of the opposite things going on there.
Yeah.
They tried some of these different designs for these different trailers and trucks, and they flopped.
Yeah.
They did not work. Again, they got out of the refrigerated stuff, which a lot of their customers saw as, well, that's a step backwards.
Yeah.
If you can't afford to support this type of market, this more vertical market, what does that tell me long-term about your business? And when you look about the competition that they have out there, I mean, you're looking at, locally, we've got Stoughton Trailers that's still doing pretty well.
Yeah.
A lot of other bigger competitors out there as well. So anytime, there's blood in the water, competitors definitely pounce on that. So I think with Wabash, I think this just sort of continues. It's going to continue to hurt their brand, because they were already struggling against some of those perceptions, true or false, in the marketplace, and this is only going to add to that. So getting back to Nolan's original question, I think they waited too long. I think this is something that they needed to get out in front of before, potentially. When you look at 54 out of the one facility and then basically shutting down the other, that's a last gasp right there.
Yeah.
And you would think if they could have seen this, and this isn't new, this has been coming down the pike for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe they waited as long as they possibly could. That's the other thing to consider.
I guess that's a good way to put it. Like, when I think like they waiting as long as they possibly could, just because it wasn't like showing up with the note on the door.
Fair.
Like it's just, hey, we've worked through every option and this is what we have, and we're at least able to keep the doors open X long, giving people a little bit more road to try and find something. And I mean, Nolan, you found this story, like, and were able to put it together for us. What were some other things that stood out as you were kind of researching it and putting it together?
So one of the reasons I asked that, did they wait too long question was, in their Q3 report, they mentioned like a 17% drop in net sales and then an income. If I understand correctly, it was positive, but it was only positive because they didn't have to pay as much for a lawsuit verdict that they thought they were going to have to, and this started in like 2024.
Right.
So, I mean, we're saying 2 years ago now. That's why I might be leaning towards the waited too long side.
Oh, okay. Well, they were cash positive because they thought they were going to have to pay $84 million for like a deadly accident, right?
Yeah. Well, what did I write here? $58 million in operating income, aided by a nearly $81 million reduction to a charge where someone ran into a truck and a couple of people died.
Yeah. No, that's not the reason, not a good reason why you'd have a little bit more in the coffers.
We made $81 million because we didn't have to spend it.
Because we fought it.
And I guess I go back to maybe waiting a little bit too long too, because they can go back to, again, this fluctuation in freight demand emanating from the pandemic, but we're 4 years out of that now.
Yeah.
And it seems like they would have had time potentially to adjust, but it's the marketplace too. They also can't control tariffs and inflation and things of that nature.
Well, that's the thing is I think we're far enough out of the pandemic, and they said, people just aren't spending right now, and so in October, they announced that new trailers as a service, or TaaS, everything as a service. Everything's going to be
That's okay.
An ass service. Insert, like everyone's working on their latest letter ass service for a new category offering. So these TaaSes, they hope to adjust how trailer capacity is sourced, managed, and deployed across North America. And I thought this was really interesting. There are a couple of different products. One is TaaS Pools, which replaces the complexity of managing fragmented pools across different partners. Instead of sourcing and maintaining separate pockets of capacity, shippers gain access to this nationwide pool of trailers positioned to support their operations. The program reduces dwell, improves dock efficiency, and ensures predictable, consistent trailer availability. According to Wabash, TaaS Plus, which has got to be better, right, is designed for third-party logistics companies like XPO that want to operate more like asset carriers without the capital requirements of owning equipment. They recently acquired TrailerHawk AI, and when they bought them earlier this year or earlier last year, they've been slowly incorporating them and this technology into these TaaS offerings, to make them smarter, just to make the logistics of them as to where they are, how they're used, and what's available, all smarter. And this to me was a pivot and sort of an answer to market demand that said, hey, we're not buying trailers. We can't actually afford to hang on to the trailers that we have. And we're looking, we see this in every industry, right? That is burdened by CapEx expenses that they either bought too much or they don't know how to maintain. They can't find a way to maintain them, and it kind of takes that sort of headache out of the equation. And I don't know, it seemed like an appropriate next step for them. I mean, did it look more like a last gasp to you?
That may be too dramatic. I mean, they're not going away. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
They're not at that point. But I do think in all the things you mentioned there, and all of those benefits are important when you talk about predictability and efficiencies. And ideally, that would lead to cost reductions. But that's not one of the benefits that was cited there. That this is going to be less expensive.
Yeah.
Now, there's sort of some common sense. It's going to be cheaper, obviously, to rent than buy.
Yeah.
I get that. But at the end of the day, that's where everyone's living right now.
Yeah.
And they're looking for that lowest cost option. If you've already bought a trailer and there's too many out there already,
Yeah.
there may be some options that supersede a lot of what they're trying to do here. I think this would be a very interesting development in a healthier marketplace. For one that's already depressed economically, it could be tough.
Are there any as a service options that don't exist anymore? I feel like we can get anything in our lives now as a service, like literally anything, down to the like deodorant, clothing, cars, anything in our lives can be as a service.
Well, after playing basketball for the last 3 weeks, I could use a lower body as a service type offering, some sort of exoskeleton I could borrow for a couple of hours a week. That'd be great.
Preach into the choir. coming hot off that dodgeball championship win and into the next session. I was, I got sick this weekend and I thought I was ready to bounce back, and I was not. There was falling. It was bad. I needed that exoskeleton. Just just keep me safe from myself.
That was a nice plug there.
Yeah?
Had to work in the dodgeball championship.
Oh, I mean, it's it'll be mentioned probably until the next one.
Yeah, you don't forget about something like that.
Every episode. Yeah. It was the only problem now is that after that, my kids seem very, very interested in the results of each dodgeball match. And luckily, we're normally on the good side of that, But it was just like, Des came to me with it seemed like an emergency, like, Dad. And I'm just like, what? He's like, did you win? And this was this morning. He was just like, did you win 2 days ago? And I was just like, what? Yes, we did. Not
thank goodness.
Not because of me at all, but everyone else rallied together in spite of me and won. So it's, it's important to everyone in my home, mostly everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into In Case You Missed It, we have another word from our sponsor, Redzone. This week's episode is brought to you by QAD Redzone. For QAD Redzone, the overarching goal for customers is to help them unlock the power of their frontline teams and, quote, win more shifts. Anna Wells, our own Anna Wells, the co-host of the Today in Manufacturing podcast, the second most popular podcast in the manufacturing industry's Anna Wells, recently caught up with not only Redzone, but some of its key customers at the EATS trade show and conference in Chicago. On display were demos showcasing the company's connected workforce tools, enabling members of production, maintenance, and quality teams to be connected, collaborating, and working toward a common goal. So, watch When Culture and Data Converge, Manufacturers Find New Potential, a short video about how QAD Redzone is empowering teams and making a big impact on these businesses. All right, in case you missed it, the stories that maybe weren't as popular but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. Nolan, what do you have for us this week?
So I picked an article that I wrote last week, and it is titled, Bill Proposes Hard Labor, Including Manufacturing Work, for Serious Crimes. This came from the New Hampshire House of Representatives, and they voted to pass a bill that would make hard labor a sentencing option for certain prisoners. The sentence would apply in the case of a conviction involving capital murder and serious sexual assaults on children. If imposed, the defendant would face life imprisonment and hard labor without parole. And legislation mentions such hard labor would include manufacturing or assembling work, intended to serve as punitive retribution and societal deterrence. It mentioned some other things like sanitation, waste management, agricultural fieldwork, but I thought for the sake of the podcast, we'd focus on the thing we cover. One voter of the bill, Jennifer Rhodes, said the hard labor is the same daily tasks that many people call careers. An opposer, Linda Harriet Gathright, said it mandates labor camps and creates constitutional concerns. And then the American Civil Liberties Union of New Hampshire called it harsh, cruel, and archaic. So I wanted to start off saying, nobody's on the other side. of thinking that criminals who commit these crimes are among the worst people in the world and they deserve just punishment. So I just want to get that out of the way. No one's on the other side of that. Yeah. But does this bill actually achieve justice or deterrence, or is it performative? Like the societal deterrence argument, I think, is a little silly. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but I think anyone who's mentally capable of committing these crimes isn't thinking like, oh, better not do that. Yeah. I might have to do hard labor in prison.
Yeah. If I do this crime, I might be forced to a life of manufacturing work.
Yeah. And then, so there's a couple things I thought about this because, labor camps being one. And then two, I think I've heard complaints among the industry that prisoners are taking work from public workers. Yeah. Just because they get paid pennies.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mention in the bill if they're going to take them outside the walls or not, or be working in public, or if they're just going to be working in the prison yards. But one of the representatives in the 10-hour long video that has a bunch of bills, and you got to find it. It's really hard to find when they actually talk about it. But Terry Roy, he joked that if anyone can find the term labor camp in the bill, he'll give them their entire salary. And while it may not be verbatim mentioned, he gave an example of like a truck bringing a bunch of sand to the prison labor yard or the prison yard, handing a prisoner a bag and telling him to move the sand back and forth. That sounds like North Korea, Siberia labor camps to me. So,
well, it was, yes, anytime that you are forcing people to do hard labor and not paying them a fair wage, yeah, that's a labor camp. It was also another thing for me is that it doesn't do anything to help with the stigma of manufacturing as being a quote dirty job. But I mean, the cynical part of me certainly thought, well, this is one solution to the jobs problem that we have. But I mean, so is the idea that because that's another concern, right? That, I mean, if we can't bring these prisoners to work alongside citizens on lines, are we creating these factories in prison? I mean,
I think it's disguised as starting with you listed these terrible crimes, and then people are going to go, oh, that's fine. And then later on, it's like, what if we added people that stole cars to this? And then all of a sudden, it's like,
gotcha.
Who knows where it ends?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand that, like, from my limited understanding of life inside a prison, any sort of change to a day-to-day or task or job might be could be welcome by some. Do I still think that they should be paid fairly for that? Yes, I do. And I don't think that it should take away anyone else's job. But Jeff, what are your thoughts on, this hard labor solution for manufacturing roles?
Well, I would agree with you. First of all, I don't like throwing in manufacturing as the catch-all term for some of these roles because it does perpetuate that erroneous, just false stereotype along manufacturing careers.
Yeah.
So I don't like that sort of connotation or connection. As far as hard labor for criminals, I am a huge fan. Okay. Yeah. You can call them whatever you want to. I'm not talking about taking jobs. I'm not saying assembling cars and doing other things like that. But there's a lot of stuff out there that nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether it's picking up garbage on the side of the road, whether it is dealing with a lot of other positions where we cannot get them filled.
Yeah.
Okay. Because nobody wants these jobs. If there's a way to put somebody to work because we're already supporting them with tax dollars because they were criminals.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about what they're getting paid. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I don't care if they don't get paid, quite honestly.
Yeah.
The problem is when we put together these types of bills, there's always two polar sides of this. Yeah. And the solution is always somewhere in the middle, right? Take advantage of the fact that you have a collective group of individuals with nothing better to do. Yeah. And then you've got solutions that we need to fix, things that we need to fix. So if you can bring those two things together, whether it's helping folks on the farm, if somebody wants to take that risk and actually have people on their farm, or whatever the case is, there's washouts on the side of the roads when you get weather, having people fill in gravel, doing stuff like that. I'm all for it.
Well, as long as they're treated appropriately, understanding that they are criminals, but like they're still humans, they've got to be safe, like in a safe environment. And I do think that there is something there was the AP published a story this week about how some prisons are using VR headsets to sort of help people reacclimate to what life might look like when they get out, because they might have been in a long time, and also skills, building skills. I mean, if you want to sell it as almost an apprenticeship or like training for some of the people who have committed lower crimes, as to potentially giving them a skill that is marketable when they get out, I could see that. Those are very rose-colored glasses. But yeah, like I don't know. It's there are a lot of pieces of this that don't sound great to me.
I don't know if the lawmakers that spoke at this hearing would agree with what you said, because they described those things as like a waste of money.
Like what?
Or like they're preparing them for life after prison, even though these people are in this bill would be in for life with no parole, but it's like we pay for them to get degrees they'll never use. And
like I was talking about how you were talking about how people with lesser crimes were also mentioned in the bill, like because the people committed lesser crimes,
they were mentioned in the bill. I'm just worried that's what it could get extended to, and then all of a sudden you got pretty remedial crimes being treated with a hard labor camp, and it starts with putting crimes that everyone agrees are insane and awful.
Yeah. I guess it all depends. Like for me, it makes sense for trying to give people a skill and then reintroduce them to society. Like it makes sense to me, as long as, again, they are treated fairly, as to whether or not that's just safety or wages or anything, like, but I mean, I don't know. It could be seen as a potential slippery slope towards hard labor camps that, I don't know. It's, you still have to treat them appropriately. I don't know. I don't think that's a huge ask, right?
Well, yes, appropriately. But again, if they've done these heinous crimes and they're in jail, and you're offering them an opportunity to do something other than sit in their cell, that's the benefit.
No, I agree. Like I'm not. What?
I'm fine with like the trash pickups and the things that need to be done that no one else wants to do, but carrying heavy. I mean, it mentions like it has to be strenuous physical activity, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Carrying sand back and forth across a yard.
This is where this gets all convoluted.
Yeah.
Find a problem, input solution.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be this complicated.
Yeah. Like, I mean, so what was the example? Were they like picking rocks in a field? Like
the guys gave the example, like they could bring in a truck and just tell them move it back and forth. Like that doesn't solve. That's not helping anybody.
I don't see what that does.
I mean, fill in sandbags.
Sure. But again, there's a problem solution.
Yeah. But. No, it's interesting, and I would be, I'm interested to follow it to see what happens, what comes from it. Just because, I mean, like it or not, there is a need for this type of labor. It's got to come from somewhere, and hopefully, as a result, we don't, wind up filling prisons as a result of trying to build a labor force. All right. In case you missed it, was a story about Generac acquiring a new factory to meet surging data center demand. So giant data centers are currently hovering over these small towns in America, just bellowing, "I am inevitable." And while these small towns determine whether or not that is something they want in their backyard, they are coming. And they're going to need the people to build, run, and maintain these, but they're also going to need the parts and equipment to make it happen. Last Monday, Wisconsin-based Generac, which designs and manufactures power products, announced the acquisition of a new facility in Sussex, Wisconsin. This is a small town about 20 miles northeast of Milwaukee. The new factory is expected to open later this year and will add more than 100 manufacturing jobs. The company will use the new plant to expand its manufacturing footprint for commercial and industrial products to meet growing demand for backup power at data centers. Basically, these products, if power goes off, generators kick on, work continues. The addition of large megawatt generators to Generac's portfolio has enabled the company to enter this rapidly growing market, and its order backlog has already doubled. Now, I chose this story because, according to Axios, nearly 3,000 new data centers are currently under construction or planned in the United States, adding to the more than 4,000 already in operation. Aaron Jagfeld, Generac president and CEO, said, quote, With global demand for data center capacity projected to more than triple by 2030, the rapid expansion of data centers is creating unprecedented demand for reliable and scalable power solutions. It's creating unprecedented demand for nearly everything. Jagfeld called it a, quote, generational opportunity. I almost kicked the entire studio over. A generational opportunity for Generac to potentially double its sales in 3 to 5 years. Now, I chose this story because what is an opportunity for Generac is an opportunity for pretty much anyone that does business in the data center market. And saw that as an opportunity that maybe people should look at what their product portfolios include, what they could include. And, this was something where these very large generators were not part of the company's product portfolio. They developed it, offered it. There was an explosion of interest in data centers, and as a result, they're expanding their manufacturing footprint. And I just thought that is something that could be looked at and replicated by companies that make other parts, components, big or small. Jeff, I don't know if you had a chance to check out this story, but I mean, Generac has just kind of had a huge surge in its manufacturing footprint of late. And the one thing that I didn't see coming was the interest in data centers.
Well, I mean, makes sense, right?
Oh, it totally makes sense.
I don't know how many stories we've run on data centers and the new boom behind them, and really all the different energy sources that people are evaluating to keep them up and running. We're looking at nuclear plants being refurbished and gotten back up to speed. So this is one of these things. It's going to be interesting to see again how this one plays out, because not everybody's embracing these data centers with open arms. Yeah. They're consuming a lot of green space. They're consuming a lot of resources, and they're not putting a ton back into the communities that they're going up in once they're up and running. Yeah. There's not a lot of people being employed there, and they consume a ton of power. Yeah. So they're also increasing utility costs and putting additional strain on the grid and a lot of other challenges. So when they talked about this being a generational opportunity, doubling sales in 3 to 5 years, great, but at some point we're going to run out. Data centers, in my opinion, are not like this consistent source of business. They're something that there's going to be a rush on, and once they're up and running, how much supplemental business are you going to get once they're going? I guess we'll wait and see. Yeah. But good for Generac, definitely leveraging an opportunity. They saw something and taking great advantage of it. I think whenever I think about data centers, though, I still go back to the grid issue. Yeah. And there is going to be a cap. There's a ceiling on this because of how much power we can actually produce to help these facilities run. Yeah. So we'll see. It feels to me like a short-term gain. Kind of a grab for Generac, which is great. I'm not criticizing that in any way, shape, or form. But in terms of long-term benefits, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, I could see, like, in terms of long-term benefits really it depends on the application or the component. But for Generac, these generators could be used in other industrial settings. Fair. And really the market cap is kind of how dystopian you want to get. Like, if we go all the way, if we're going all the way to the floating pods in the Wall-E situation, we're going to need a lot of them for a while, but hopefully not. And you're right about the limited resources, especially if we keep turning off alternative ways of finding power. But I don't know. I would just you're right. Another point that you raise is that if that window is short and you do have something that might fit, you can't wait and see. Right. You got to get on it now. Nolan, when you had a chance to check out this story, was there anything that stood out to you? Like, I'm sometimes wary as to when people sometimes seem to throw around a generational opportunity, but these are very big generators. And you're going to need a lot of them to keep a data center up and running. So, I mean, for a company like Generac, if they can keep doubling sales, that's generational wealth.
So they're making their generators to help data centers.
Basically, yeah, not to help them, but basically plug in so that way if the grid does fail, it's like a backup generator so that way they can keep running until the grid is repaired.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like Jeff said, that sounds like a good short-term option for them. I mean, that quote you said about the projected to more than triple by 2030. Yeah. Is that going to be another thing where we keep building up for this crazy, awesome thing that's just going to never happen? or like the pandemic where everyone thought they had to realign everything and it was going to be that way for till the end of time, and then 4 years later they're like, oh, we overestimated that.
I don't think so, because it's kind of like I see AI kind of like the creation of the internet, whereas we're just, right now when it comes to the use of AI, we're still in GeoCities, man. Like we're not even posting on Facebook yet. We're still playing Doom and on AOL chat. Like and we have this entire market that is going to develop with the use of AI in so many different applications. Is there an eventual cap to that? Yes. Like there it was to the internet, and then maybe it comes back down. But I don't think that's going to be for a while. I like that was that quote specifically is tripling by 2030. That's according to a McKinsey study. And let's just hope McKinsey didn't use AI to come up with the information. Get busted out on that like Deloitte did. But I don't know. So I don't see it. I mean, that could still be seen as short term. But again, it's going to be good for the immediate future.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jeff, what was in case you missed it this week?
Picked an article called Railroads and their Regulators are Thwarting Safety Fixes and Potentially Costing Lives. So basically, we've talked about the BNSF derailment in Palestine, Ohio, and the big environmental catastrophe that it ended up being. We've covered this more as well in terms of things going on with the railroads, with a lot of mergers and acquisitions, safety issues, strikes. Railways have been in the news quite a bit over the last 18 months to 2 years. So in this one, when this is based on research by the Howard Center for Investigative Journalism at the University of Maryland. They've come out with some pretty interesting stats here. So they're talking about human errors and track defects causing more than 3,000 rail accidents over the last decade, killing 23 people and injuring nearly 1,200. This isn't taking into account, again, spills, environmental impacts, cleanups, all of those types of things as well. Okay. It's just on that front. Now, after the NTSB goes through and does their analysis of this, they give their information and their suggestions to the National Railway Administration, the Federal Railway Administration, the FRA. From over the last 10 years, they've given them more than 81 different recommendations on how to fix the railroads.
Yeah.
Over, under, where do you think they're at in terms of how many were implemented?
Over, under? Like I would set the line at 5. And I'd still go under.
I'm going to guess it's comically low.
It's 5.
Oh!
On the nose.
How about that?
Now, the article goes through and details all of the different dynamics here, all of the different tragedies that have taken place that potentially could have been solved if some of these solutions were put in place, if some of these recommendations from the NTSB were actually put in place. This goes from everything from actual track fixes. This goes into working schedules where we've had conductors or the operators of these tracks or these trains, going on 2 hours of sleep when they should be hitting mandated numbers. These have been not just freight rail, this is also passenger rail as well. So a lot of accidents that potentially could have been avoided had the NTSB's recommendations been put into place. Now, I think this is extremely pertinent, not just for general safety, but also we've got a real big merger that's being talked about right now. When you look at Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern potentially wanting to merge, creating a coast-to-coast, huge, almost monopoly, but not quite type of railroad. Now, one of the reasons, and the article doesn't come out and say this, but it definitely offers some Easter eggs in terms of how powerful the railroads have gotten, and there's fewer of them. They're kind of bullying the FRA in terms of what actually gets put into place, because obviously anytime you put any type of safety regulations in action, there's money involved. There's people that are going to have to invest in terms of infrastructure. They're going to have to invest in people. More people on the crews is another thing that's sort of been skirted based on NTSB recommendations. All of these things sort of coming together could be even more difficult to get into action if you've got fewer railroads with more power. Essentially, one of the things that in wrapping the article up that I thought was also very interesting, when they look at, let me see here. Oh, this goes back to the Doge thing. Basically, when when the Trump administration initially came into the office and they were asking some of these different offices, or different government offices, what they would do to help cut and streamline operations. The FRA was one of the first ones to offer up and offered 80 different things that they would offer that they say get in the way in terms of doing business, creating additional costs, all those types of things. So not only were they not taking the NTSB's recommendations on how to make things safer, they're willing to go the extra mile in eliminating some of those checks and balances that are currently in place, focused on safety, operability, things of that nature. So this is worth taking a look at again if you use rail, and we all are impacted by its use. What's going to happen if this continues to be the case? If the FRA is basically allowed to just ignore what the NTSB tells them to do, we're going to continue to have more and more of these tragedies. And even though the human costs are comparatively low, what's happening when these things go off the rails, literally, is detrimental. It's just detrimental. Look what happened in Palestine. That wasn't just an environmental issue. That was an economic one for numerous different manufacturing plants along that line and that community as a whole.
Yeah.
These are big-time things that need to be considered, but no one looks further down the line to see the impacts that not taking these steps will have.
I think they do, and they just don't care. Like, I mean, I think that, there's a simple right and wrong, or not necessarily right and wrong, but the right thing to do. You know what's right, but then you do what is politically motivating. You know what is a political a win for you, and I think that something like this, when it comes down to simple safety, and it comes down to I understand that as a result of an overcorrection of overburdensome regulation, overburdensome bureaucracy, everyone's coming back over the top, just burn it to the ground. And I think that when people make those decisions, they know that they are making the wrong decision. They believe they're winning, but they know they're making it a less safe place for everybody.
I don't know. I'll offer my unlicensed medical or psychological advice. I don't think they care. I think they've convinced themselves that what they're doing is the right way, and they're not mentally capable of seeing the other side.
Well, no, I think it's more seen as a political win, and that's what's most important. Whereas, but I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just blind regulation bad, and so be damned the consequences. I don't know. I guess I still put enough faith in people in understanding right and wrong. And if you are taking away regulations that increase safety, you have to know in your soul that's wrong, right?
I think it's very simple. I think the railway marketplace, whatever you call it, that business, that sector is smaller.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't get a lot of public notice until something goes bad.
Yeah.
So it's just easy to say, look, we want to keep these few companies that we do have in place, can let them to continue operating in the fewer hindrances that they have, even though they're pretty important when you start looking at some of the stuff. If we can get away from doing that, we're going to try.
Yeah.
That's what I think, the FRA sees its job as.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do. I don't think they look any further than that.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
But they have to understand the consequences of their decisions.
I don't think they see it in the same scope.
Yeah.
Because they don't live there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not where they live and operate. They're not on these trains necessarily, or there's so many miles being put on. When you look at that, again, 10 years, 23 casualties.
Yeah.
23 is too many.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to agree with that. But when you look at numbers and you start averaging it out and you're going, really, it's going to cost us, $5 million in labor costs to put extra crews on these trains every year, and it's going to save 2 lives a year. Really?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a horrible cost evaluation, but that's exactly what's going on there.
Yeah.
And that's how they're justifying it. Maybe to Nolan's point there about sort of the emotional dynamic of it. That's what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And they feel they're doing a better or a bigger service in terms of preserving the jobs that are there.
Okay. So you think they could see it as like more of a greater good?
Yeah, which is wrong because, again, they're not looking further at the bigger picture impacts.
Yeah.
And Palestine is the perfect example of that.
No, and I can see that argument. But I also when the argument is as simple as it is safer to have 2 people on these massive trains.
Yeah.
2 people. I mean, we're not talking about like when you say cruise, it becomes cruise only because they're adding one person.
Well, and again, we're looking at two polar sides of this, just like we were talking before. You got 81 recommendations. You did 5 things. Man, can you do like 15?
Yeah.
Like, can we meet in the middle here a little bit,
Yeah.
as opposed to being so far apart? That's what's most alarming to me.
Yeah.
If it came back and said they've only implemented half of them, okay, well, you could probably make some arguments in terms of overlap, or this is really, best possible scenario that isn't realistic from an operating perspective. But when it's 5 and 81, that's too much.
Well, and when you have these safety agencies that are only offering recommendations, right? There's no, they don't have a cost benefit analysis, right? They're just best practices. They just make the recommendations and they're like, hey, if you want to prevent like, not likely disaster, like disaster in some community, you should maybe do these things.
And there's also, look at all the lost product. Look at all of the, the supply chain impacts too when these trains do derail.
Yeah.
That's important to think about too.
Can't we just, we gotta, it's not safety, Jeff. It's uptime. We gotta rebrand it. It's the National Transportation Uptime.
Something.
We gotta make them, their name is branded as anti-business. They need to be a pro-business. So just, no, we're not about safety. We're about efficiency and uptime.
Works for me.
Oh, God. As a service. Yeah. NTSB ass. That was an NTSB as a service.
What's that word again?
You're good.
All right.
There you go.
All right. Before we get out of here this week, we'll do our final thoughts. Nolan, what's your final thought this week?
Oh, I think we already got the dodgeball part out of the way. I did want to mention that. That feels great. Nothing like a local rec league dodgeball championship to fill you with
week.
confidence.
Yes.
It is. You know what? There is the camaraderie and just like the feeling good after putting in a good sweat for 45 minutes. And then you hold that banner and just that little bit of weight. You know what it feels like?
Changes a man.
Victory. It's I hate.
Where are you hanging the banner?
We don't get the banner. We
You
just
get to
take
hold
a
the
picture
banner.
with the banner.
Wow.
Where we will put, but
Along with all the other old grease trophies.
we have a an old Grease trophy case in production. So
We need like an AI version, like where we can like literally have an AI like trophy case.
I don't hate
Where we
that.
can
Oh my
just Put
goodness.
stuff in there.
Yeah, I would typically be all for that, but I recently had like an AR rig on, and if I was like visiting that trophy case, the Old Grease Virtual Hall of Fame. God, I love that. But if I were to walk the halls of it, I'd like have to stop 3 times to vomit, just because as I'm in those environments, I get so sick. It's just not
Thanks
good.
for sharing, David.
I still think it's a good idea.
No, the where you had to get sick.
Oh,
You don't need to share that.
No. Hey, any virtual or physical realm, there needs to be a Hall of Honors. No, and Nolan, please feel free to talk about the championship at any time.
Oh, we will. I'm sure we will for years to come.
My final thought this week was that, so over the weekend, we went to a children's museum, just a cesspool, where I likely caught the bug that had me bedridden for the better part of 36 hours. But while I was likely catching this bug, they have one of the most comprehensive arts and crafts rooms that you'll ever see. And what I like to talk about is how they have a vision of upcycling things, and what people often think is trash, all these kids use to make these weird creations. And in particular, there was just this box of trophy parts. And
That's kind of cool.
it was cool because I looked at it and I was like, that is garbage. What are you going to do with it? And they all said just crazy things like 1990 Southwestern Wisconsin Muay Thai champion, or second place Taekwondo. And then they gave the weight class and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, this was somebody's like legacy. And or they were maybe like from a trophy company that had like because some of them had errors in them, and so I thought maybe these were the rejected parts. But the kids saw these and they built the craziest, their own trophies, and they used them as pedestals to make houses, and they used them to make puppets, and it was crazy to me how like what can look like garbage to us could be used for, to by a child's imagination to make anything. And I thought, we have so many people in manufacturing and engineering and I understand that a lot of it is waste, and it can't be repurposed. But if there are products, that otherwise are garbage or recycled, or, there are places in our community where you could donate this and you might think it's just garbage, but it also might be hair on a Muppet. You know what I mean? Like, there was all these fake pieces of fake flowers from like a local fake flower manufacturer, which is a real thing. And I was just like, and they were using it as hair. So it was just, one person's trash is another person's treasure. And I thought it was really cool.
Donate all manufacturing waste to children's play toys. The ones that aren't like harmful.
Yes.
That's how you fix that problem right there.
Yeah, they wind up taking everything that's been recalled off the shelves and just give it to
make a new toy.
But I mean, there were nuts and bolts there. There were a lot of things that just reminded me of like someone just cleaned out their garage, and it was cool because one of the kids was making these sunglasses and just glued nuts and bolts all around them. And while they were the heaviest pair of sunglasses I've ever held, I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's very steampunk. So, hey, think about the other places where you might be able to get rid of some of that unsellable product. Jeff, what's your final thought this week?
I had a final thought and it just flew out of my brain. So I'll remember it for next week.
Oh, what a tease.
Sounds good. All right. Well, before we get out of here, Anna, we hope everyone's feeling better, and we hope again to see you soon. And Nolan, thank you again for stepping in on short notice. We really appreciate it. Just one of those emails in the morning where we were like, what are we going to do? And then, hey, we did it, and we were like 8 minutes off of our go time. So, I mean,
make a little call to bullpen.
That's right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a thumbs up on or a positive review on whatever platform you use. Actually, everybody that was hating on that one story, if you could just stick around and leave a thumbs up in the live chat, that'd be awesome. If you want to reach any of us, it's Jeff, Nolan, or David at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first, and subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join us every Thursday when we go live. All right, for Nolan Beilstein and Jeff Ranke, I'm David Manty. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.